G'day all, it's Jason here from Headfirst again. Today we have a brand new 1959 Super League reissue plexi panel. It's come straight from a store, basically, been shipped directly to me, and this is a 2023 model, so we will see. But it will have my favourite Transformers in here. Vietnamese ones. The less I say about that, the better, probably. This video today, what we are going to do, and I'm going to show you how I do it, is I'm going to do what I would call the OG Jose mod. No diodes, none of that kind of stuff. What we're going to do is a version of the original kind of Jose vibe, which is a gain stage in front of a plexi. So what we'll do is we'll configure this so that there'll be a pot mounted in here, which will be the gain for the Jose stage, just like they were done back in the day. You'll still be able to blend the channels, so we'll have a normal channel and a bright channel. So it's like literally a gain stage in front of the plexi that we keep the circuit completely intact here. And I will be adding a master volume to the amp, which was done not a post-phase inverter, a pre-phase inverter master, okay, like it was done in the Jose. It'll be post-tone stack in this amp. Pre-tone stack masters are great for diodes, but we're not going to do diodes in this, as I mentioned, right? So I'm going to do what Jose did. I'm going to put the new master volume here, and the indicator light is going to move over to where the JMP sign is. This will involve drilling a new preamp tube into the chassis. Should be fun. I can't wait to see how this thing pans out and what it sounds like. So let's get into it. So if anyone was wondering whether Marshall had moved the 1959 hand-wired amp to using the Vietnamese transformers, well, the answer is yes, they have. Okay, so TXOP 00021 MAV, and it looks like 2204. I'm guessing is the year and the month. So they've obviously been making these for a while. That's a different choke than I have seen on the 1959 hand wides in the past, and this is definitely, although this is a laydown PT, so Marshall are definitely doing the laydown form factor, just like they have done in the 1959 hand wires for a long time. That is also a MAV transformer, also 2204, and its part code is TXMA 00116. It's a fat stack though, look at that. I mean, that PT, it's got some serious intent about it, so that's all great to see. Cool. I thought these had that, right? So, God bless them, they've actually got a spare preamp tube hole, just plated over, riveted and plated, right? So, getting rid of this and putting a tube socket in it for 4 preamp tubes for the Jose mod is going to be that much easier. Let's flip this thing over and see what we've got going on. Okay, so on the inside here, this looks the same as any other 1959 hand wire that I've seen, which is cool. As I said, this is already pre-drilled out, so that's going to be great. So I'm going to put the extra stage in here. I think that the way I'm going to do this mod is I'm not going to use push-pull pots and all this kind of stuff, right, for jumpering channels and all that kind of stuff that, as Jose did, it was kind of probably unnecessarily complex. What I'm going to do is I will use one of these jack locations for the pot that will adjust the gain from this new gain stage. And the high and the low, I don't know whether I'll do high and low here or high and low here, we'll figure it out. But the high and the low on the jacks will be, when you go into the low input, you will bypass this extra gain stage and it'll be just like a stock plexi. So if you put the new master volume on 10, and you plug into the low input, you've got the amp as it is now, pretty much unchanged. Go into the high input, and you'll be coming through this extra gain stage before it hits the rest of it. the ability to jumper will be done by simply bridging the grids on this gain stage here. So rather than having to use a jumper cable and all that, which you won't be able to do because I'm not going to have all those jacks active, I'll just bridge the grids here so that when you come in, it's always, when your guitar input comes in, it's always going to hit both sides, both the normal channel and the treble channel. And if you don't want to use the normal channel, you just set it on 0. Simple. Alright guys, let's go through this Jose mod. Here's the extra stage drilled in, right? So I've got the kind of plate and cathode resistors and bypass caps and so on coming off this tag strip board, which is mounted on a standoff. I'll show you some pictures of this. I got this idea from Dave Friedman, actually, when Dave talked about this on one of the live streams that he's been on with my channel. It's a really cool way of mounting a tag strip board without having to drill another hole in the chassis, which is how it's kind of normally done. So yeah, pretty cool tip there, Dave. Thanks, man. So what we've got on this extra Jose gain stage out the front, and I'll talk about how it's kind of able to be switched into the, to your signal. But let's just talk about how it's set up. It's just a 220k plate resistor, okay, and a 0.0022 coupler for the output, and on the cathode we've got a 2K7 and a 0.68 bypass cap, stock Marshall. Okay, so when you plug into the high input here, your signal is going to come straight over to this gain stage, and there's a 33k grid stopper just on the grid of this triode. And so this is your first gain stage, right? And so on the output, you're heading back on this shielded coax to the 1 meg audio pot, which is now being positioned into one of the holes from removing that jack there from the normal channel. And this is a 0.001 cap, which is running from the output of this coupling cap to ground. Okay, this is just shaving off top end. So we want kind of this, let's call it the boost, if you like, out the front. We don't want it to have a lot of bass, and we don't want it to have a lot of top end. We want to kind of push the mid-range. So with this coupling cap here and the arrangement with these voltage dividers here, which I'll talk about in a second, we're controlling the bottom end, and this is controlling the top end to give us a nice push through the mids. So coming in through here, the output of this pot is the wiper, and what we have is a 68k and an 82k voltage divider. And in the original Jose schematic, which I'll just flick up on the screen right now, and I'll kind of circle it, he would use the 68k voltage dividers that were there. The reason I'm using 82k, well, one, it's a voicing option. The higher you put this resistor to ground, the more gain and bottom end you will get. It's a big tuning opportunity here, but I don't want it to get too high because I've actually got a 1 meg resistor acting as a grid link resistor on the other side of this socket here. So this 82k is actually in parallel with the 1 meg, which gives you about 70k, so it's close enough to 68k, to be honest. So this is really a 68k voltage divider, so it's really the kind of the classic Jose setup. So when nothing's plugged into this bottom jack, your signal will jump across here because these are switched cliff jacks, right? So so from here, you're now coming in and into V1. Okay, now the reason I'm going through this this jack socket here like that is so that I'm allowing whoever's using this amp to plug into the bottom input, and when they do that, it's a stock plexi basically, because you're going to go straight from here to V2, so you're bypassing the extra Jose stage, right? So the top input is the high gain with the Jose mod. The bottom input still gives you pretty much a stock plexi. And to simplify all the switching stuff, so to still allow you, these channels are now full-time jumpered, if you like, using that term, because the grids are bridged here. All right, so what we would normally see on a stock plexi, of course, is the treble channel coming in on one grid and the normal channel coming on the other grid. And if you want to have the grids kind of connected, you need to use a patch cable to jumper them on the outside. So the way this is set up now, there's no push pulls or all this kind of rubbish, right? You just, like, if you want to use a treble channel, you just crank it up. You want the normal channel to be out of circuit, so to speak, just put it on 0. Then you can still blend just by adjusting your two volumes here. And you can do that either with, in the high input, so your Jose stage is in front of these two, or if you come in the bottom input, then obviously this is out of circuit and you can blend in the normal way. The only other change, right, so kind of all the actions down here, right, the whole board here, completely stock, haven't changed a thing. And all I've done is added this master volume. It's the only other change down here, right? So 1 meg audio pot, and it's grounded off the phase grounded at the phase inverter ground, which is the presence pot ground. And we've got shielded coax, which is important for these longer cable runs, from the treble wiper to the master volume, and then the output of the master volume to the phase inverter input, which is here. So if you have a look at your stock plexi, 1959 Super Lead or a 1987X, you'll come straight from the treble wiper to here, phase inverter input, non-master volume, right? So with the master volume, what we want to do is we want to put the master in between the treble wiper and the phase inverter input. This is for a pre-phase inverter master volume, okay? Which again, in the Jose mod, that's how it was done. So treble wiper to master volume to phase inverter input. So now you can get truckloads of gain, because this pot here is adjusting how much gain is coming from the new gain stage. And you can get all of your gain on the front end, and you've got a really usable master volume that will take you from, kind of bedroom volumes all the way up to a blaring 100 watts. I've moved the only other thing I did was I moved the negative feedback line. So this purple wire here is a 47k negative feedback resistor here, and the purple wire, it was on the speaker jack, very old school. The problem with this, I've talked about this before on the channel, is when if you change from 16 to 8 ohms, the cabinet that you're using, you're changing the amount of negative feedback in the amp as well. So your sound will change, and it won't just be as a result of changing the cabinet. You've actually changed the negative feedback in the amp as well. So the way that you do that in a much more contemporary modern way is the negative feedback line taps straight into one of the impedance settings on the impedance switch. So regardless of how you set the switch and what cabinet you're using, the amp's always getting the same negative feedback. So I've set this at 8. Tried it at 16. I thought it was a bit too much. So I'm back at 8 ohms and a 47k negative feedback, which is a pretty classic setup. This is sounding ripper. We're going to go and take it into my guitar room, the music room there, and we're going to crank it through my Marshall 4x12, and you can have a listen to it. It sounds fantastic.